Avengers Infinity War trailer, Easter eggs, breakdown, and theories. Now, this is everything that Jason and I could find within the trailer. There could be some spoilers in case we are right on any theories that we do have, but most of the time we're wrong anyway, so you guys are probably good. Now, so the trailer starts with the camera panning up on a planet either in ruins or being attacked. It could be Xandar from Guardians of the Galaxy, where the Nova Corps reside and have the orb, which contains the Power Stone, of course. I know the battle we see of Thanos versus Iron Man and Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and the Guardians later on in the trailer is possibly happening in space or on a planet that's, obviously in another planet. But I wonder if it's happening on this planet because the orange matches the color palette of the same place we see Spider-Man get chokeslammed by Thanos, and we see, Iron Man take that right hook as well by Thanos, and we see Tony, looking emotionally distraught. Well, we also look at, if you really look at it closely, you see kind of like a tornado because the orange atmosphere of the planet is kind of circulating into one spot. If you pay real close attention, kind of visually, a little bit later, I'm going to say this again later on the trailer, but kind of visually reminds me a little of when we see in Guardians of the Galaxy, the Celestial using the Power Stone and destroying the planet, when we see Tavon the Collector showing us the image of that, or what the Power Stone and what the other stones can do. So kind of remind me of maybe the Power Stone was possibly being used there, and that's why I was thinking possibly Xandar, but it also could be Morag from Guardians of the Galaxy, the first film, that planet we see Peter Quill go on to, just because some of the lightning and the wind and the way some of the visuals look in the inside the planet kind of reminded me a little of that, but who knows? We'll have to wait and see about that. So while we were viewing this planet, we hear narration started by Nick Fury. The narration we hear being finished out by Tony Stark, Vision, Thor, and Black Widow is the exact same thing Nick Fury said to Captain America and Iron Man as a way to motivate them to work together to beat Loki after Agent Phil Coulson was killed. There was an idea to bring together a group of remarkable people to see if we could become something more. So when they needed us, we could fight the battles that they never could. And also during the narration, we see each person on screen saying their line except for Nick Fury, or do we possibly? I know a lot of people think the hand that Tony Stark is kind of holding is either Spider-Man's hand or his own. From the dirty look on that hand that you can see from the battle. So it could, of course, be Tony Stark's, but I think it could possibly be Nick Fury. Obviously, I know everyone's going to say in the comments, well, how could Nick Fury be there? Obviously, they'd have to, come up with some logical way for him to be on the planet, but most likely it is probably going to end up being Tony Stark's hand, because the more times I keep watching the trailer, it just looks like he's really emotionally distraught, and, one hand's just a little bit dirty, one hand's more cleaner than the other, but who knows? It could either be Spider-Man, Nick Fury, or Tony Stark's hand. This also visually reminds me of Tony's nightmare in terms of seeing the Chitauri and his team dead in Age of Ultron when Scarlet Witch gave him that nightmare dream sequence, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. Now, this is just a wild theory of mine, but what if everyone who is speaking during this narration are the characters who eventually die in either this film or the next Avengers film and stay dead without Doctor Strange bringing them back, or, using some kind of a way, either the time stone or using some other logical way of bringing characters back, into the fray or back to life. So that's just a little wild theory. Could happen. We then get a shot of Bruce Banner in the ground in the New York Sanctum Sanctorum, which is where Doctor Strange resides on Bleecker Street. This shot is a callback to 2012's The Avengers, where after Hulk attacks the fighter jet from the Quinjet, he gets blasted and crash lands, and Harry Dean Stanton offers him some clothes and some advice about him having a condition. This is also an Easter egg and a reference to the Silver Surfer Comics Volume 3 issue number 52, which came out in August of 1991, where Silver Surfer, on the brink of death after being attacked by Thanos, crash lands into the Sanctum Sanctorum of Doctor Strange. As the Surfer blacked out, he said, and I quote, "Thanos is coming." We then see Doctor Strange and Wong, who's unfortunately not listening to Beyonce in the shot, but instead looking down at Bruce Banner after just crash landing through the Sanctum Sanctorum, and we see through the mystic arts that Wong is harnessing energy. We see Doctor Strange with the Eye of Agamotto around his neck, which is, of course, the Time Stone, looking at Wong puzzled by Banner crashing through, as we can also see the holes from Hulk in the roof above Doctor Strange and Wong. We also hear a somber piano theme playing in the background to foreshadow the impending danger for our heroes. The depressing piano music in the background reminded me a little of the third trailer for The Dark Knight Rises back in 2012, where during the first minute of that trailer, if you go back and listen, we hear a lot of soft, somber piano music, so it kind of just reminded me a little of that. We then get a shot of Scarlet Witch in bed, and we get to see Vision in human form opening the blinds to the window, and it's pouring rain outside. We then see Wanda and Human Vision, which I'm going to call Victor Shade, an alias of his in the comics when he shifts into his android form to human form, and that is of Silver Age Vision from the comics. Also, this makes sense that Victor Shade is now in human form because during the I believe it was the Paprikash scene in Civil War, Victor says to Wanda, "Do you know, I don't know what this is. Not really. I know it's not of this world, and it's powered Loki's staff, gave you your abilities, but its true nature is a mystery, and yet it is a part of me." Wanda then says, or asks him, "Are you afraid of it?" And Victor says, "I wish to understand it. The more I do, the less it controls me. One day, who knows, I may even control it." After seeing this quote, it now makes sense that he's evolved into going to human form, and he is truly starting to understand how to control the Mind Stone. Wanda and Victor holding each other by the face, suggesting they are now in an intimate romantic relationship. This has been brewing now for a long time, and we saw Vision, and when we saw Vision, of course, saving Wanda from dying in Age of Ultron when Sokovia was falling, to progressing in Captain America Civil War to the Paprikash scene we just mentioned. And also, this is a reference back to the comics, as they were married and dating in the comics as well. We also see the glowing spot in his forehead of where the Mind Stone is, or used to be possibly. Obviously we know at some point during the film that Vision is going to get the Mind Stone either ripped out of him or possibly taken out of him, possibly maybe even carried carefully by Shuri, which is Black Panther's sister, who is an absolute tech genius, similar to that of course of Tony Stark, or even could be even smarter than Tony Stark even. We then get a shot of Thor looking out of a spaceship that could be the Milano, which is of course Star-Lord's ship of the Guardians of the Galaxy. We see Thor looking at what appears to be planet destruction from the first shot of the trailer. If you look really carefully through the bottom left and the top window, you'll see that same orange lightning and dust and what appears, like I said at the beginning, kind of like a tornado or a supernova. I wonder if again this is Xandar that they're overlooking, or maybe again some other planet, could be like I said where it's Morag, but who knows. We then get a shot of Bruce Banner in Wakanda next to the right arm of Veronica, aka the Hulkbuster, and he is looking at Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow, who is sporting a new hair color, most likely after going into hiding after the events of Captain America Civil War. This appears to be the first time that they're seeing each other since the ending of Avengers Age of Ultron. It's been 2 years, or possibly 3 if this film is taking place in 2018, as we know that Age of Ultron took place in 2015. I wonder if they're going to continue where they left off romantically, or bring back Betty Ross at some point and create that ultimate love triangle, so we'll have to wait and see. I love the shot of Bruce standing next to the Hulkbuster arm for a few reasons. One, it's a callback to Age of Ultron with Hulk fighting the Hulkbuster suit in Johannesburg. 2, he helped build that suit as mentioned by Bruce Banner in Age of Ultron. And 3, it could be a possible foreshadowing of him not wanting to Hulk out anymore and wanting to instead use the Hulkbuster suit in battle. The blonde Black Widow look could be a reference to the Black Widow character from the comics known as Yelena Belova. In the comics, she was trained by the Red Room, took up the alias as Black Widow, and was a freelance S.H.I.E.L.D. agent level 5. She made her debut in the comics during Inhumans Volume 2 number 5 in March of 1999. We then get a shot which never gets old of the Marvel comic book pages flipping with our iconic heroes being presented to us as it reveals the Marvel Studios logo. We also hear in the background Alan Silvestri's iconic theme from 2012's The Avengers playing. Alan Silvestri composed Captain America the First Avenger in 2011, as well as The Avengers in 2012. Alan Silvestri is returning for Avengers Infinity War. He also composed Back to the Future back in '85 and Back to the Future Part 2 '89 and Back to the Future Part 3 in 1990, as well as Forrest Gump in 1994, and of course the original Predator in 1987, as well as several other films, so I'm really looking forward to having Alan Silvestri back. We then get a shot of New York City, and I believe if you look in the straight ahead in the center, you'll see Avengers Tower. But of course, it's no longer Avengers Tower because Tony sold it in Spider-Man Homecoming to an unknown buyer, but in my opinion, it was possibly Norman Osborn. Immediately after that, we are back in the Sanctum Sanctorum, and we have, from left to right, Wong, Sherlock Holmes, Doctor Strange, Bruce Banner, Sherlock Holmes, and Tony Stark. Obviously, I'm joking about Sherlock Holmes. Both Benedict Cumberbatch and Robert Downey Jr. both playing the character of Sherlock Holmes, one on film, one on TV, and I'm really hoping we get a no-shit Sherlock line to each other at some point between them over the two Avengers films. Also, fun little fact, too, Rachel McAdams is Robert Downey Jr.'s love interest in the Sherlock Holmes films, and Rachel McAdams is Doctor Strange's love interest in the Doctor Strange film, so fun little parallel we got going there between the two Sherlock Holmes. We see the destruction in the stairs from the Hulk crash landing. If you look really closely in Tony Stark's right hand, you can see a flip cell phone. This could be the same one that was delivered to Tony Stark by Stan Lee during the ending of Captain America Civil War, where Steve Rogers in a letter said that if Tony ever needed him, he would be there. This might now be that time, and Tony Stark could be activating it or using it there to communicate with Cap. We also see Tony Stark wearing an interesting looking jacket and sweatpants. It also looks like he has an arc reactor back in his chest after getting it permanently removed at the end of Iron Man 3. During just about every film involving Tony Stark, he has upgraded his Iron Man armor, and I wonder if that sweat jacket and sweatpants are a part of it, part of that suit, or part of an actual suit. I also might be overanalyzing, which I usually do, but he could be wearing one of the three suits I'm about to mention, or a combination of the three suits. 1. The Model Prime Armor Mark 51 from the comics. It's a nanotechnologically built suit that can configure itself to what Tony Stark needs it to be, like armor, weapons, and tactical tools. 2. Extremis armor. We last saw Extremis in Iron Man 3. I wonder if Tony possibly fixed Maya Hansen's formula. 3. The Bleeding Edge armor. In the comics, the armor was reinvented on a nanomolecular level, able to be absorbed into Tony's body and to be stored in his bones, which I don't know if that's going to be the case here, but deployed back to the surface when called upon. Before I continue with the shots, we hear Thanos speaking, voiced by Jonah Hex and Cable himself, Josh Brolin, and Thanos says, "In time, you will know what it's like to lose, to feel so desperately that you're right, yet to fail all the same." During the first part of that speech, we see Tony Stark, what looks to be activating the cell phone possibly, or calling Steve Rogers or Nomad, the Secret Avenger, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, but I wonder if the four of them are looking and reacting to the people running and panicking outside of the Sanctum Sanctorum, or are there members of the Black Order inside the Sanctum Sanctorum with them? I could possibly, if there are Black Order members in there, I could possibly see, maybe Ebony Maw there to get the Time Stone out, because of course he's a master of persuasion. And with Hulk being there, I could possibly see Cole Obsidian, aka the Black Dwarf, being there as well. And they might just, I could be just like I said, overanalyzing, but they could just be, reacting to, what they hear outside with the people reacting and panicking, to Thanos' ring-spinning gravity weapon. We then see Peter Parker on a school bus, and the hairs on his arm begin to stand up, which means his spider sense is tingling. To me, this is also a little bit of a callback, not spider sense wise, but to Sam Raimi's 2002's Spider-Man, where when Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker is about to climb the wall for the first time, you can see the hairs on his fingers raising up. They never mentioned or focused on spider sense in Captain America Civil War, but we know he has the ability, and he was able to dodge attacks by the Winter Soldier and the Vulture during Spider-Man Homecoming, so we know that he has Spidey sense. But I like how they're focusing a lot more on it, and the character is really evolving, not just character-wise, but power-wise as well. We then either see a portal or some kind of a more likely one of the ships that could be breaking off from the Sanctuary 2 ship, which is Thanos' main ship that we last saw during the mid-credit scene for Thor Ragnarok. I think also it could be some kind of a gravity weapon. We then see Peter looking at it nervously as he knows he needs to get off the bus immediately and help with the impeding danger. We also see the other high school students in the bus react to seeing this. This is probably the craziest thing that anybody in New York has seen since the Battle of New York during the climax of 2012's The Avengers. We then see the circle ship, or the gravity weapon, spinning very fast. If you also look down at some of the buildings, they are on fire, and you can see that one of the buildings in the center has a lot of smoke from the fire, presumably, and is being caused most likely by that machine. We then hear Thanos continue with his speech, and he says, "Dread it, run from it. Destiny still arise," of course referring to himself and the destruction that he plans to unleash. And I like too how, again, this gives a little bit of you know, how much he enjoys the mayhem, and it gives a little bit more about what motivates his character, on that he's in this he's looking to destroy weak planets, or he's looking for tribute. And so, you know, I'm liking where they're going with the motivation in with Thanos. So it's very interesting so far for me. During the second portion of that speech, we get a shot of Doctor Strange on the left harnessing mystical energy in both hands, and Wong on the right is doing the same thing. We also see Tony Stark take off his sunglasses and stare up at the circle ship gravity weapon with a look of fear. We also see Bruce Banner as well, looking at the impeding danger. Those sunglasses that Tony Stark is taking off could also be the same sunglasses that he wears in Captain America Civil War and Spider-Man Homecoming, although like his Iron Man suits and cars, Tony usually upgrades his things, so could be wrong on that as well. After watching that particular shot for a good amount of times, it seems like Doctor Strange is using the time stone in that shot where only Tony is moving and the other three characters are not moving really, and kind of frozen, or at least the background is completely frozen. This film demands to be seen, by the way, in IMAX, and fun fact, this is the first film in history to be entirely shot in IMAX. I believe the next Avengers film, which comes out in May of 2019, May 3rd, 2019, is going to be doing the exact same thing as well. We then see a lot of dead Asgardian bodies as someone is walking over them, and as you can see on one of the characters, you can see a red tattoo on his arm. This is one of the same characters from Thor Ragnarok who we saw in battle during the ending with Hela. So we know for sure that that is an Asgardian. Also, I know that most people think that that is Loki walking over the dead Asgardians, because the very next shot simultaneously is, of course, Loki giving away handing the Tesseract rather to Thanos. But I personally think that this could be Ebony Maw, one of Thanos' children and a member of the Black Order, as I said earlier, who has the power of persuasion. If he can absolutely talk you into doing whatever he wants. He's got that basic will over you, and there's nothing really you can do about it. And he stays inside your brain. After that, we get Loki, as I mentioned, holding that Tesseract with terror and fear in his eyes. He is clearly giving the Tesseract to Thanos. If you recall back to 2012's The Avengers, Loki made a deal with Thanos. Loki gets to rule over Earth in exchange for bringing back the Tesseract, aka the Space Stone, which is blue, and he also let him borrow the Mind Stone in the scepter that is now, of course, on Vision's forehead. This appears to be aboard the Grandmaster's ship that is carrying the Asgardians from the end of Thor Ragnarok, that Thor is aboard, as well as Valkyrie, Hulk, Heimdall, and Korg, and of course Meek. We then see an actual portal open up, kind of like what the Space Stone does, and we get a good look at Thanos coming out of the portal. This shot also reminds me a lot of when Loki appeared out of the portal at the beginning of 2012's The Avengers at S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters. He really looks menacing, and the CGI, in my personal opinion, looks great, and it truly feels like, especially from the eyes, that it's Josh Brolin, kind of like with Mark Ruffalo and the Hulk, how they really got that look down visually and CGI-wise. I've heard some people say that he kind of looks like Bruce Willis, which is pretty funny. But the sky is also, if you notice, the sky is blue above Thanos and not in the same color palette as where he chokeslams Spider-Man. So this could possibly be in New York City where the circle ship gravity weapon is attacking, or possibly it could be Wakanda. We then get one of the best shots in the trailer of the Iron Spider suit presented to Peter Parker at the end of Spider-Man Homecoming by Tony Stark in all of its glory. I know it's premature, and I know some people hate how much the suit reminds them of Iron Man and how tech-savvy the suit is, but me personally, it's my favorite Spider-Man suit so far in all the films we've ever gotten. And I will tell you this, though. I love the 2004 Spider-Man, or the 2004 Spider-Man 2 suit, the 2014 Amazing Spider-Man 2 suit, and the Civil War suit, and of course the Spider-Man Homecoming suit. I love all those suits. with a passion, but I think I love this suit even more so far. We then see Spider-Man backflip onto the circle ship gravity weapon that is rotating very fast. I could be completely wrong, which I usually am, and this could be the battle that is in space, or that ruined planet that could be Xandar or Morag or wherever it could be, but in my opinion, I still think that this is New York while the city is being evacuated, and also because of, again, how blue the sky is, and also we saw that weapon rotate, the gravity weapon rotating, so most likely it's probably going to still be New York on that particular fight. By the way, I love how the lights in Spider-Man's eyes glow and still have that facial eye movements like in Homecoming and Civil War suit where you get the facial expressions. I really hope Karen is still programmed into that new suit. I loved Peter and Karen's interactions during Spider-Man Homecoming. I know Spider-Man is a huge Star Wars fan, as well as Kevin Feige and the rest of the Marvel Universe, but I wonder if they're going to sneak in an Alderaan line or joke about saying we need to stop Alderaan from happening, you know, to one of these planets, but we'll see. It just me like thinking aloud a little bit about some Star Wars stuff, because they always, you know, bring in some Star Wars references in these MCU films. We then hear T'Challa, aka Black Panther, saying, "Evacuate the city, engage all defenses, and get this man a shield." That's my favorite quote by far in this trailer, by the way. I love that quote. After that, we see Thor in what appears to be the Grandmaster's ship from the end of Thor Ragnarok, where he had his coronation. It appears the Sanctuary 2 is attacking his ship as teased during the mid-credit scene, of course, in Thor Ragnarok, and he's trying to hold the ship together, possibly from falling apart. If that's not what's going on in the scene, the only other thing I could probably think of that's going on is Thor and the Guardians are near Nidavellir, which is one of the 9 realms, of course, and it's the home of the dwarves who made Mjolnir, and he is there to get his new weapon known as Jarnbjorn, which in the comics Thor had before Mjolnir and is forged by the dwarves. Jarnbjorn is naturally sharper than almost any earthly weapon and can cut virtually anything. I wonder if the Ether, aka the Reality Stone, will play into Thor's new weapon forging. The shot of Thor holding the parts of his ship together remind me of Steve Rogers holding the helicopter like a bicep workout at the gym during Captain America Civil War. We then get our first look at Proxima Midnight. She is also a member of Thanos' Black Order, and in the comics she is married to Corvus Glaive, who is the right hand to Thanos. She is a master combatant and has superhuman speed and strength and durability and is nearly invulnerable. The spear of hers that you see her throwing at Nomad there, or Captain America, even though he dropped the mantle of Captain America, but that spear you see is so powerful, and it's got the power of the sun basically, and in the comics it can cut you down to a molecular level. Once in the comics she used it on the Hulk, and when she sliced into the Hulk it turned him back into Bruce Banner. So I hope they keep the threat level and the power of that spear somewhere relatively high in there, because I definitely want to feel the threat level and have the stakes being raised for our heroes when they're facing the Black Order. We then see her throwing the spear at the man in the shadows, who catches the spear. The man is revealed to be Steve Rogers. He now has longer hair and a beard. It also appears that the star on his uniform is no longer white and shiny anymore, and that he's not wearing his mask, which he has dropped, as I mentioned earlier, the persona of Captain America as seen at the end of Captain America Civil War when he dropped the shield. In the comics, he stopped being Captain America and became someone, as I mentioned earlier, known as Nomad, the secret Avenger, because he felt he was a man without a country or a home. I'm not sure if that's what we're going to call him in the film Nomad, but you know what? I'm going to call him Nomad anyways, but I like how we're spending time dealing possibly with that in the plot, but obviously the main plot of the film is going to be, defending the Infinity Stones that are being taken and that want to be used by Thanos. But it's going to be interesting to see if they use that as a subplot in Steve Rogers, trying to rediscover himself again and, a new persona rather. As I mentioned earlier, I'm pretty sure my favorite line in this trailer is by T'Challa when he says, "And get this man a shield." It's epic, it's appropriate, and the King of Wakanda, who's in charge of vibranium, to say this line, and Chadwick Boseman says it like a boss, a badass, and a king. So I really love the way that line is delivered by Chadwick Boseman. I also wonder if they're going to be giving Steve Rogers the energy shield, like in the comics and the animated show Earth's Mightiest Heroes, which if you have not seen, you have to watch, and Jason and I will for sure be reviewing that for you guys in preparation for Avengers Infinity War. We then get a shot of Scarlet Witch harnessing her powers and looking distraught and worried. I wonder if this is the scene where Corvus Glaive and Proxima Midnight are attacking Vision and attempting to take the Mind Stone from his forehead. We then see the Hulkbuster suit in Wakanda being used As I mentioned earlier, I wonder if this is Bruce Banner possibly operating it because he built it with Tony Stark, as mentioned in Age of Ultron, and we saw him earlier standing next to the right arm of the suit in Wakanda. Also, if you notice, you can see that the Hulkbuster is not too shaky, but it's not as smooth as usually is where Tony is operating it, so could possibly be that, you know, Bruce is using it, so he needs to use one of his 7 PhDs and use that suit like Thor told him to, alright? I would love for Bruce Banner to be fighting in that suit and using it during the Battle of Wakanda versus the Black Order and the Outriders, and then Cole Obsidian, aka the Black Dwarf, whom we did not see in this trailer, because I gotta imagine they're still working on the CGI and the visual effects, but I imagine that some of the shots we saw later on the trailer where we see Falcon, you know, firing his machine gun, making it rain, I imagine one of those shots would have had Cole Obsidian somewhere in Wakanda, but he is, of course, one of the members of the Black Order, and he's basically their Hulk. I would love to see him smash that suit and ripping it and breaking it apart, no pun intended, and then Bruce transforms into the Hulk to fight him. It would be so epic. We then see Black Widow, stab something or someone. It's hard to tell, but in my opinion, it could be Corvus Glaive that she is stabbing, but knowing how wrong I usually am, it's going to probably end up being Proxima Midnight, but I still possibly think it is Corvus Glaive. I don't know why, but when she stabs either Corvus or Proxima, it visually reminded me a lot of 2012's The Avengers when Black Widow uses Loki's scepter to close the portal. After that, we get a shot of Doctor Strange in New York from what appears to be the same scene as earlier in the trailer, where he, Tony Stark, Bruce Banner, and Wong were looking outside at Thanos' circle ship gravity weapon. His facial expression appears to be terrified and astonished by what he is seeing, but I can already tell you right now what he is going to say in that line. Thanos, I've come to bargain. We then see Wakanda getting spiked by massive constructs that are slamming into the jungles outside of Wakanda. From what we see afterwards, my best guess is these are troop carriers for Thanos' army, known as the Outriders. The Outriders are a race of genetically engineered humanoid creatures with the purpose of serving their maker until they die. Thanos used Outriders to find new planets inhabited by weak species he would raise. Upon finding a new world, an Outrider would report to Corvus Glaive, who would arrive to that planet along Thanos' Black Order and demand a tribute for Thanos. If the inhabitants refuse, that world would be annihilated. Immediately after that, we see Steve Rogers give an Outrider the right hook and knock it down. We can also see blood or a cut on the right side of his lip to show us how hard this battle is and how excruciating it is, and that the Outriders are more than just cannon fodder. We then get an awesome shot of an Outrider trying to swing one of its arms at Black Panther, and he blocks it and gives it the left claw in badass fashion. I gotta say again, I'm really digging the hand-to-hand combat of Black Panther. After that, we get back to the planet with the orange color palette, and we see Thanos chokeslam Spider-Man, immediately followed by Tony Stark looking very distraught and worried, possibly about what's happening to Spider-Man. This could be Spider-Man possibly dying, and I know Spider-Man Homecoming 2, or whatever they're going to call it, prom, or junior prom, or whatever they're calling it in 2019 or 2020 when it comes out. Obviously, I know Tom Holland will survive Avengers 4 in 2019, but he could die in this film and be brought back, or just be very injured. I don't know, I'm thinking loud, but obviously I know he's going to survive in the end. We then see Vision screaming in pain, and a blade, or let's call it a glaive, is attempting to take that Mind Stone from his forehead. This is our first appearance of Corvus Glaive extracting the Mind Stone. If you look to the left of him and you can see only their feet because the shot is of Vision, I'm pretty sure the one on the left is Proxima Midnight. Really quickly about Corvus Glaive, he, as I mentioned earlier, he is the right hand to Thanos and the leader of the Black Order. He is a master strategist of warfare. If he studies how your planet fights, operates, and he studies your warfare, you are completely done, because he will expose every weakness. Also, the blade, which is called the glaive in the comics, is what makes him immortal. If you don't destroy the blade, you cannot kill him without destroying that blade. If it's intact, he will be intact and stay alive. We then get one of the best shots in the trailer of Thanos putting the Space Stone into the Infinity Gauntlet, and if you look closely before he puts it in, we already see that the purple stone already inside, which is of course the Power Stone, which was in the orb. We last saw the orb in 2014's Guardians of the Galaxy given to the Nova Corps on Xandar, so it's safe to assume that Thanos has destroyed Xandar or has messed it up really badly. I also got to say, I really thought it was impressive and interesting that Thanos can grab Infinity Stones with ease because he's just holding the Space Stone. You remember what happened when the Red Skull grabbed the Space Stone? He obliterated it into space. So I like seeing how powerful he is, and I know you saw Loki holding the Space Stone kind of with ease too, but it just makes him feel more menacing and makes that threat level feel that much, makes the stakes feel that much more raised just because how he can hold these things so easily. So just something I kind of noticed. We then see Thanos smash Iron Man with a right fist. You can see pieces of his helmet fly off of the face from the punch. I would love it if he gets punched by Thanos. He gets up and says, "I can do this all day," but doubtful. I'm sure it's pretty obvious at this point to everyone, but I'm pretty sure that Spider-Man and Iron Man all get to that alien planet via Doctor Strange using some kind of a mystical portal. During the last few shots I just mentioned, starting when Spider-Man gets chokeslammed, we hear Thanos say, "Fun isn't something one considers when balancing the universe, but this does put a smile on my face." This again just reinforces who Thanos is. He just enjoys destruction and it makes him really happy. His goals are destruction and for everyone to pay tribute to him. After we see Iron Man punch down, we see Bucky Barnes, aka the Winter Soldier, loading his rifle with Wakandan soldiers about to fight alongside him. If you remember, the last time we saw Bucky was during the mid-credit scene in a Wakandan laboratory where he was being put in carbonite. He was being frozen and turned into ice. If you look also in the shot of where Bucky is holding the gun, he's holding it in his left arm, which was blasted off in Captain America Civil War by Iron Man, so now he's been given a new vibranium arm, presumably by the Wakandans. And also, if you look closely, you'll see that his hand has a glove on it. It kind of visually reminded me a little bit of Luke Skywalker when he gets his hand cut off in Empire Strikes Back and then gets it back in Return of the Jedi. He kind of then covers it up with a glove. Kind of visually reminded me a little bit of that. And also Sebastian Stan and Mark Hamill, they freaking look like each other. At least when they were when Mark Hamill was younger, they really resemble each other. It's actually kind of weird and crazy how they resemble each other and they're not related. So next, we get a great shot of T'Challa not wearing his mask but wearing his suit, and Black Widow is standing next to him, which you can tell from her blonde hair. He then gets his claws prepped for battle. If you look, you can see some characters we know. Behind T'Challa on the right, we see Steve and Bucky. Behind T'Challa on the left, we see M'Baku, aka Man-Ape, who we saw in the Black Panther trailer. And he is a rival tribal leader to T'Challa's rule, so we know he survives in Black Panther, and they put their differences aside when there is an alien threat level that's going to destroy Wakanda and the rest of the world. After that, we get our first shot of Sam Wilson, aka the Falcon, flying through the Wakandan fields, firing his machine guns at the Outriders. If you pay close attention, you can see what might be Bruce Banner in the Hulkbuster suit fending off Outriders all over the suit. And as I mentioned earlier, I gotta imagine that Cole Obsidian is gonna be somewhere in this battle. We then see thousands of Outriders running towards Wakandans, to which all the Wakandan soldiers are charging as well in an amazing, epic-looking shot. I wonder if the Battle of Wakanda is for either the Soul Stone, which if it's not Heimdall, then it could be on Wakanda in Necropolis, located in the hollow of the tree where the heart-shaped herb grows. If it's not the Soul Stone, as I mentioned earlier in the breakdown, I could see Black Panther's sister, Shuri, who is a genius and Wakanda is, of course, so technologically advanced. I could see her helping take the Mind Stone out of Vision, or my other theory possibly is if Vision gets that Mind Stone ripped out, taken by Corvus Glaive and Proxima Midnight, he gets taken to Wakanda where Shuri creates a Sunstone of sorts, like he actually wore in the comics as a battery to keep him alive. This might be what they are protecting and defending. It's either the Mind Stone or the Soul Stone, or possibly both. I fully expect to see Cole Obsidian, again the Black Dwarf, in this battle like he was in the comics where he was sent to attack Wakanda. If he's not in this battle, I think Marvel is really losing a big opportunity to give us a visual spectacle having the Black Dwarf or Cole Obsidian there fighting the Hulk. We then get one of the best shots in the entire trailer of Bucky, Black Widow, Steve Rogers, the Hulk, War Machine, Falcon, Black Panther, Okoye, and the other Wakandan warriors charging at the camera. It reminded me visually of the shot of the team at the beginning of the Avengers Age of Ultron where they are charging Baron von Strucker's Hydra base. You know we will get that money shot of every single member, possibly in Avengers 4, where it's going to be some crazy long tracking shot of everyone. Also in the shot, you can see that Steve Rogers has Wakandan vibranium arm gauntlets. I personally want to see the energy shields, but this is a very awesome alternative as well. The camera then cuts to the Avengers Infinity War logo with Alan Silvestri's incredible Avengers theme from the first film that came out in 2012. After that, we get a shot of Thor aboard the Milano saying, "Who the hell are you guys?" to which we then are shown the Guardians of the Galaxy who have picked up Thor floating from space after his encounter with Thanos during the mid-credits scene of Thor Ragnarok. We then see the Guardians of the Galaxy and Mantis. I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna laugh so hard during the movie if after Thor says, "Who the hell are you guys?" we get the line, "I am Groot." By the way, look at Star-Lord's mustache. What do you guys think? Should Marvel Studios digitally remove that mustache? Henry Cavill knows what I mean. Sorry, too soon, guys? I know. I love how Mantis, by the way, gives an awkward hand wave to say hi. The last time we saw Guardians was, of course, in theaters back in May of 2017, but in the story, it's been 4 years since the ending of that film, not counting the teenage Groot mid-credit scene of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. But Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 opened with Kurt Russell's Ego and Meredith in 1980, and then it flashed forwarded 34 years later, which would equal 2014, which is 6 months after the first film. I really like how Thanos is all about destruction and everyone is paying tribute to him, but now that his favorite daughter Gamora is fighting against him, I'm hoping it adds something more personal and conflicting for Thanos, kind of like, Darth Vader where he's fighting Luke Skywalker, but we'll have to wait and see. It's going to be interesting to see the human, if obviously Thanos is an alien and a mad titan, and, obviously he doesn't have human qualities or elements because he wants to destroy everything, but it's going to be interesting to see that personal conflict there. I'm really looking forward to seeing that from Thanos' perspective, because the thing that drives these movies is incredible villains, is what a lot of times puts these movies over the top. Also, it says May 2018. We know this film comes out on May the 4th, 2018, which is exactly 6 years since Joss Whedon's The Avengers debuted on the exact same date. It's also 10 years and 2 days since the MCU started with 2008's Iron Man. Thank you, Robert Downey Jr., Jon Favreau, and of course, Kevin Feige for this incredible journey we have been on thus far. I still remember seeing Iron Man in 2008 in theaters right after Kobe Bryant and my Lakers beat the Jazz in Game 1 of the 2008 Western Conference semifinals, and immediately after, I saw a dynasty born in cinemas, and I've enjoyed every single minute of it. Yes, including some of the films that aren't as good, Thor: The Dark World. This is what we were teased at not only the end of Iron Man 1 with the Avengers assembling, but that Thanos reveal during the mid-credit scene of 2012's The Avengers. I still remember screaming Thanos in the theaters, and I just can't believe we're finally getting everything we were promised to us back in 2012. Alright guys, well that's going to do it for this video. If you ended up staying to the end, we really appreciate it. Let us know what you guys think in the comments. What are you looking most forward to in this movie? Did I miss anything in the breakdown? Are there any theories of mine that sound ridiculous? I know probably all of them, but let us know. We'd love to hear from you guys. And if you guys want to see any more of these videos, hit the subscribe button, as we are going to be doing a non-spoiler review, a spoiler review, as well as an Easter eggs, references, and trivia video. See you guys next time.